This morning, a Democratic victory in Iowa is giving that party a glimpse of hope, maybe a rare glimpse of hope, as the country moves toward the midterms. Democrat Caitlin Dray won the Iowa Senate 1 special election, breaking the Republican supermajority in Iowa. Dray won the seat by 10 points, and it's notable because Donald Trump won the same district by 11 points in November.
A shockwave has hit Iowa politics, and Donald Trump's reputation just took a hit. Democrat Caitlin Dray pulled off a stunning win in the Iowa Senate special election, flipping a district that Republicans assumed was untouchable. Here's the kicker. She won by 10 points in a district that Trump had carried by 11 points not long ago. That's more than a swing. It's a full-on reversal. For years, Trump's brand has just been invincibility. He's redrawn the rules, convinced his base that nothing could stop him, and painted any loss as impossible. But now, that image is cracking. Republicans just lost a critical seat, and suddenly the Trump machine doesn't look unstoppable anymore. What does this mean for the GOP, the midterms, and Trump himself? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down, because one special election in Iowa might just signal a much bigger story.
We spent a lot of time talking to voters. We ran a really aggressive ground game. We knocked on over 17,000 doors. We made almost 30,000 phone calls, and we took a message that resonates with Senate District 1, that everyone in this district should have an opportunity to have a good life that they can afford. And that's everything from housing to healthcare to childcare. And those issues resonate with voters.
So let's break down exactly what happened in Iowa. Caitlin Dray ran a campaign that was strategic, aggressive, and laser-focused. She knocked on over 17,000 doors, made nearly 30,000 phone calls, and reached voters directly with a message that mattered: affordable housing, healthcare, and childcare. Real-life issues, real-life solutions. The result was a stunning 10-point victory, flipping a district that Trump himself had carried by 11 points just a few years back. That's a 21-point swing in a district that Republicans thought was completely safe for them. So why does this matter so much? Well, because this seat wasn't just another number. It helped Republicans maintain a supermajority in the Iowa legislature. Alright, so supermajorities give a party almost unlimited power, override vetoes, push through extreme legislation, and even make appointments without any opposition. Losing this seat, it's a symbolic and practical blow. For Trump, this is more than a local defeat. It's a crack in the image of invincibility that he's spent years cultivating. That red wall his supporters bragged about. Suddenly, it doesn't look so unshakable anymore. And the bigger picture here, Iowa is a small step in a larger trend. Suburban voters, working-class families, and even traditionally Republican districts are starting to push back. What Caitlin Dray did in Iowa could be a blueprint for Democrats in other states heading into the midterms. So how did Caitlin Dray pull off what seemed impossible? It all comes down to strategy, connection, and relentless ground game. She made sure every interaction counted. Recognizing that people consume information differently today, she focused heavily on online engagement, making sure her message reached voters on social media and digital platforms.
And Democrats had a rough go of it in 2024, and there's been some gloom and doom there. What is it that you think that Democrats had been doing wrong?
Well, I can't speak for all Democrats, but I can speak for myself. And truly, I think that reaching people where they are is what will make the difference.
Language also played a huge role. Dray made Spanish language outreach a core part of her campaign. The entire campaign website was available in Spanish. Get out the vote messaging was in Spanish, and Dray herself could converse with voters in English and Spanish. So even though she jokes that she lost some of those language skills, that didn't stop her from connecting authentically with voters who might otherwise feel overlooked. And that kind of personal touch matters, especially in districts with growing Hispanic populations. Then there's the messaging itself. Dray didn't talk in abstract policy jargon. She spoke directly to the issues that voters feel in their daily lives: affordable housing, accessible healthcare, and childcare that doesn't break the bank. She framed it as something that everyone deserves, a good life that they can actually afford. And she didn't just target one group. She tailored her message to working-class families, suburban moderates, and communities who often feel left out of political discussions. In her own words, Dray explained, "Truly, I think we have to get back to policies and messaging that resonate with the working class." That approach is key. By focusing on real problems and offering solutions, she flipped a district showing that even traditionally Republican strongholds aren't untouchable when campaigns focus on people over politics. Finally, there's the organization behind the scenes. Dre's team wasn't winging it. They built disciplined, data-driven operations that tracked voter engagement, followed up on calls and visits, and made sure that no voter was ignored. This wasn't luck. It was strategy, persistence, and connecting with voters on a personal level. And all of this together, the ground game, the online strategy, the bilingual outreach, and the relatable messaging made a huge difference. And it's why the Iowa upset isn't just a one-off story. It's a blueprint for Democrats looking to chip away at Republican-held districts in the midterms. Analysts were quick to point this out. Breaking a supermajority isn't just symbolic. It changes the game. Here's why. When a party has a supermajority, they can basically do whatever they want. Override vetoes, push through controversial legislation, even make appointments without any meaningful opposition. Losing just one seat suddenly puts limits on that power. Suddenly, Democrats, who were basically on the sidelines in Iowa, have a voice again. Now, Iowa might feel like a local story, but the bigger picture is trending in the Democrats' favor. Analysts are seeing a pattern here. Suburban moderates and unaffiliated voters are starting to drift away from the GOP. And these are voters who used to follow the party line. But increasingly, they're saying, maybe not this time. The generic congressional ballot shows it clearly. CNBC reports a 5-point Democratic lead, Ipsos shows 4, and the Wall Street Journal reports 3. Average it out, a 4-point lead for the Democrats, up from barely 1 point earlier this year.
I heard frustration overwhelmingly. People in my area are concerned about their Social Security benefits. They're concerned about what happens even if they're not utilizing Medicaid. What happens when Medicaid is defunded to our rural and semi-rural hospitals like the ones in my area? We have the only major medical center for 90 miles in any direction, and when those funds go away, that affects everyone in the community, whether or not they're utilizing, government programs for health insurance. And that frustration is deep, and that frustration cuts very clearly across political lines.
Instead of taking the hint from Iowa, Trump doubled down, of course. He started telling Republicans that they're entitled to more seats, and he pushed for aggressive redistricting to guarantee his control. Essentially, he's saying, if the voters won't fall in line, we'll redraw the lines so they do. Texas is a prime example of this. Normally, redistricting happens at the start of the decade. But mid-decade, Trump's influence pushed for a new map aimed at protecting Republican seats and threatening Democratic ones. The idea? Make 5 competitive districts to endanger Democrats. But to do that, you have to pull Republicans from other areas. And that has party veterans worried. Even within the GOP, there's tension. Traditionally, the Texas Republican delegation has been pretty unified, but now some are pretty reluctant to follow Trump's lead. Publicly, they're all smiling and going along with it, but behind the scenes, nobody is happy. Redrawing the map mid-decade is risky, expensive, and politically tense. Democrats, of course, were quick to call it out. They accused Trump of trying to rig the midterms before they even start, warning voters that the GOP is playing by one set of rules while demanding everyone else follows another. And with momentum clearly shifting towards Democrats, that aggressive move might backfire politically for the Republicans, energizing voters who see it as overreach. Now, Trump's solution to losing Iowa is to double down, redraw, and tighten control. But the question is, can that really stop the shift already happening among voters? Or is it just a temporary band-aid on a much larger problem? Even some of Trump's own party veterans are starting to sound the alarm. Take Karl Rove, for example, who is not exactly a friend of Democrats. He points out a simple but important fact. Unaffiliated voters are growing faster than Republican registrations. What does that mean in plain English? The GOP can redraw districts, push aggressive maps, and try to protect their seats, but they can't gerrymander away demographics. The electorate is changing, and it's changing faster than the party can adjust to. For strategists on both sides, the lesson is clear. Ignoring voter concerns or overestimating safe districts is dangerous.